Borderlands 4 is mixing up weapons in a huge way. They can spawn with multiple manufacturer parts, enhancements further modify those parts in game-changing ways, and you no longer have limited ammo grenades and heavy weapons. Instead, you have Ordnance, which functions on a short cooldown, making for a game that has even more variants and builds because we all know Borderlands is about finding interesting ways to break the game. So let's go through everything we know about guns, enhancements, and Ordnance. Here we have your inventory screen on PlayStation, but I have to imagine it would be similar on PC. You have 4 slots for your weapons, which you'll be able to cycle through on the fly. Below that on the left is a slot for your healing item. It's not clear just yet if this differs at all from the previous games, but what does differ is the slot next to it, the Ordnance slot. This was in the past a slot for your grenades, and I'll go through this in more detail soon. Below that are 3 slots for enhancements. To the right, we have rewards you can claim in its own section. I'm not going to speculate too much on everything else we see on screen, but we have an area for missions, the map, the inventory which we're in, which has your storage in your backpack, and echo logs, which is a place you can replay echoes you find in the world. There's a tab for your skills, which we'll go through in another video, and SDU, which in other Borderlands is your storage deck upgrade. Unless I'm losing my mind, it will be an area to spend a resource to upgrade the max ammo of weapon types and max storage of other things, which was a hub restricted feature in previous games. Finally, customization, which could also contain vehicle customization. So let's circle back and take a look at the guns. Like before, each weapon will have a rarity, common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary, possibly more. White, green, blue, purple, and orange. So this rare level 20 deadless or dayless, depending on which dev pronounces it, which is strange, assault rifle has 2 fire modes, the assault mode and the pistol mode. We can see in the HUD it's easy to switch between them with a press of the button down on the PlayStation, which functions as a mode switch button for all your guns. You can also see its stats at a glance, the most important for a lot of you being its DPS at 265. Though DPS can never truly capture how it feels in practice. Here's an epic level 20 submachine gun. A good example of not capturing how it feels is that this has a lower 230 DPS, but it has a few perks. It can switch between the corrosive and fire damage types, which have an 11% chance to add 94 damage per second. You obviously swap between damage types with the mode switch buttons. For those who don't know, in Borderlands games, elemental damage types do more or less damage to different things, depending on the difficulty. True Vault Hunter mode very much boosting these differences, but in normal mode, fire, for example, does more damage to flesh and less to shields and armor, whereas corrosive does more to armor and less to flesh and shields. What's interesting though is that this gun has parts from different manufacturers. So it's a Melee gun with the elemental damage switching that Melee is known for, but it also has a torque magazine, making it fire sticky gyro jets that explode when you reload this gun or switch elemental modes. With an explosion that's exponentially more powerful the more you stack on the target. You can see how the DPS on this gun is kind of meaningless. It also has a TDR accessory, which makes it so on reload, you throw out this weapon. It gets legs and automatically hunts enemies and shoots at them with the remaining ammo. This is what we've come to love about TDR. The problem here is that the torque part encourages you to unload your mag, and the TDR part encourages you to throw the gun out with a little ammo remaining. This final part is just underlining that it is a Melee gun that switches between the elements. So we can see that Borderlands 4 has a much larger focus on manufacturers, which we will also see in the enhancements. Guns can have parts from other manufacturers depending on their rarity, but that doesn't always mean they'll work together. It simply increases the randomness and points of difference. If they were all winners, loot chasing wouldn't be fun. What I wonder though is how many part types each manufacturer will have. We know TDR is all about throwing a weapon out when you reload, so there'll be a gun with a legs part, a grenade gun part, one that makes it fly around like a drone, but what else? The parts added can't just all be accessories, right? Is there a TDR magazine, for example? If there was, that would most definitely hurt the gun. The next weapon we see is a level 24 rare shotgun from Ripper. Ripper Charge in full auto mode. You'll notice it has a lot more DPS, but you have to expect that from a shotgun and one of higher level, which calculates DPS based on you hitting up close. Then we see an Order manufacturer's level 20 rare pistol. Auto weapons can be charged to fire multiple rounds at once depending on the charge time. Nothing we haven't seen in games before, but I'm sure there'll be interesting ways Gearbox modifies this mechanic, and we get an example of this on an enhancement coming up. So let's take a quick look at the manufacturers we're getting. First is Jacobs. I hate myself for always gravitating towards them. I don't want to say they're my favorite manufacturer, but history suggests so. Jacob guns are about crits, aka headshots in most cases, and ricocheting bullets to other targets, typically focusing on accurate black powder weapons and very little elemental damage. Then we have Maliwan, the complete opposite, which are all about elemental weapons and switching between element types. The versatility means that they're slightly weaker weapons if not used correctly. Then we have Vladof weapons, which are all about fast fire rate, usually meaning they have minigun barrels strapped to everything. Sometimes they also have grenade launcher underside barrels. Then we have TDO, which once again are all about throwing your weapon away, only for a new one to spawn in your hands. The thrown weapon explodes or has an effect like turning into a turret. These effects are modified by how much ammo was remaining when it was thrown. Torque are guns focused on explosive damage. There's not much more to say about them except expect explosions. There are also 3 new manufacturers, the Order, which I mentioned before, they're all about charging your weapons up. Rippers, which are full auto, and Charge in full auto. I suspect this translates to they get bonuses the longer they fire. Finally, Daedalus, which seems like accurate low recoil weapons that have different ammo types. We also know we're getting Hyperion, but for some reason it wasn't mentioned in the gameplay showcase. They're known for shielding the user as they fire. Now, I mentioned before that each weapon can spawn in with different parts from multiple manufacturers. This is a Vladof assault rifle at its base, but it has a Torque magazine, Hyperion shield, and Maliwan elemental switch. This means it will get the fast ammo spray of the base Vladof assault rifle, the explosive rounds of Torque, the shield from Hyperion, and the elemental effects of Maliwan. It seems like, yes, each manufacturer will focus on a particular part of a gun, which would suck, as I personally like to hope for even more variety, but that might be asking for a bit much since guns can also spawn in with alternate fire modes, underbarrels, and different elemental damage types, as well as perks and the like, so yeah. Guns will have a huge amount of potential variance. Here we see ammo sticking to the enemy and the player pressing square to detonate it. This is interesting though. This wasn't a reload to explode effect, rather an effect you have to manually activate. So further leaning into manufacturers and modifying your playstyle are enhancements. You can have 3 equipped at a time. You saw before that the Vladof gun had a Hyperion part that adds a shield. With this enhancement, it gives your Hyperion licensed parts plus 100% weapon shield capacity. That's doubling your shield effectiveness with only an uncommon enhancement. It also rolled with another perk plus 15% weapon status effect chance. I foresee chasing the best enhancement rolls will be a large part of the end game. Then we see a common that supports order parts. It makes it so order part manufacturer weapons slowly refill ammo from your reserve into your magazine, meaning that you'll have to reload less and you'll feel like you have a larger magazine. Here's an uncommon enhancement that modifies Torque. It makes it so Torque licensed parts fire stickies that hit for a bonus 50% damage when first attached to an enemy. So yes, enhancements can drastically change how weapons function, even outside of the insane points of differences weapons can roll with already. This enhancement also grants plus 15% weapon status effect damage, but below that bar is filled 1 out of 3. This one is called Action Fist, but the other enhancements have different names and symbols. I'm not entirely sure what this is. I thought maybe you get a bonus for stacking 3 of these symbols in your 3 enhancement slots, but we can see 1 out of 3 for the Action Fist symbol, even though the player has an airstrike symbol equipped, and the airstrike symbol enhancement, when hovered over, has a 0 out of 3, though it's highlighted with green text instead of white. Look, this could be anything. It could be just your basic actions like melee and doing a melee attack while in the air for airstrike. It could be something to do with the character's skills as well. Let me know below what you think because I'm drawing a blank here. So this rare enhancement modifies Ripper licensed parts by increasing the weapon damage they do by 2% for each consecutive shot fired, max of 25 stacks, which is a 50% damage bonus. So if you had this mod, plus the mod for the Order magazine passive reload, they would work well together on a gun with both manufacturer parts. you can see our guns have even more crazy combo potential. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, let's just hunt for ways to break the game. The enhancement also gives plus 30% aim down sights proficiency and plus 30% accuracy, which probably stack. Last, we have an epic enhancement. With Jacob's licensed parts, you gain plus 40% chance to ricochet non-critical bullets. So this might encourage you to go against your very nature using Jacob weapons and stop headshotting everyone if you want to clear out rooms of enemies, then go back to headshots aka crits against solo targets. You do get a plus 30% crit damage perk as well as plus 30% accuracy and plus 15% weapon status effect damage. These are no small amounts too, so enhancements seem very powerful. You might be thinking, 15% weapon status effect damage on Jacob weapons? Well, it might roll with a Maliwan part. So guns and their enhancements have been overhauled and upgraded in massive ways. Will this all matter if you simply get the best stuff without any effort? Simply reducing the game, like in Borderlands 3, to using all the legendaries that drop during your leveling experience. Gearbox stated that they've heard the feedback and overhauled the drop rates and changed loot across the game, working hard to make all gear feel better, but also making rarity matter. Legendaries will truly feel rare. They'll have unique effects that you won't find on other pieces of gear, and you might want to build around them, making potentially really powerful builds, but getting one isn't instantly going to be best in slot. Gearbox's goal is a satisfying loot chase, without making every other gun redundant. In Borderlands 3, they noticed that legendaries drop too often, devaluing them and everything else. You can see on screen some examples of legendary weapons, this one shooting some kind of disco ball like random exploding balls of light. Now finally, instead of having a grenade slot, you have an ordnance slot. You can see in the combat UI that there is a button, L1, for your abilities, which I'll go through in another video, and a button, R2, for your ordnance. This can be a grenade like you've come to love in the Borderlands series, complete with different rarities, stats and effects, or it can be your heavy weapons. Here we see the player whipping out a cannon heavy weapon and firing its limited ammo. Instead of using a weapon slot and heavy ammo, your weapons now have a cooldown. You see after you're done firing, it goes on cooldown. The cooldown depending on the ammo remaining when you cancel it. Here it went on a 23-second cooldown. So now you don't need to save heavy weapon ammo and a weapon slot for particular fights. I for one love this change as I never ended up using heavy weapons. Here we see switching the heavy weapon out with 32 ammo, leaving a shorter 10-second cooldown. This means that there will no doubt be builds that lean heavily on heavy weapons, and you won't have to worry about running out of ammo. But it seems grenades function differently. You'll have charges for grenades, noted by the 2 here. When she throws it out, a seemingly shock element clustered modded grenade, you can see the 1 starting to fill back up to 2. So you can throw multiple out and they will regenerate over time, and I'm guessing the amount of charges depends on the type of grenade. Once again, this means you don't need to save your nades, encouraging a more aggressive playstyle. As a bonus, we get a quick look at our healing item here, which does heal over time, however it also provides other buffs as well. I imagine healing will be similar to other Borderlands titles, granting different buffs or different heals depending on which item it is. So, thanks for watching. What do you think? Did I miss anything? Let me know below. I have a ton more Borderlands 4 content to come, so you know what to do. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, ciao friends.